Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Andrew, Liberty, Linda, and Mark, hang on. We'll get your calls concerning whether or not Idaho should follow the lead of Oregon and Colorado and Washington and legalize the dope. We look forward to that. But it's the return of our great friend Lars Larson, the Lars Larson Show. And Lars, I had a chance to go through your home base of Portland on my way to Lincoln City last week, and you've got some crazy people there that apparently don't like ICE and don't really respect authority. I'm just glad that you've got that conservative outpost there in Portland. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be back, and I hope you enjoyed Lincoln City because it's one of the favorite places for my wife and I to go. And I will tell you, I agree with you. There are some crazy people here who do not respect law enforcement. They don't like authority. They apparently don't believe that a country should have borders, but I'm willing to bet that most of them live in houses where they lock the front door before they go to bed every night. So they believe in their own security. They just don't want security for the rest of the country. And you're right. By the way, on the subject of legalizing pot, don't do it. Don't do it. It comes with so many complications. You'll be told that it'll generate a gigantic amount of taxes. It's a large number for the average person. For a state budget, it adds up to chump change, and I'm not entirely sure. I'm willing to bet that within a few years we're going to find out that the total costs of enforcement and everything else exceeds the amount of money that you collect in taxes on the pot, and it does not get rid of the black market. In fact, Oregon, which sells legally about $300 million worth of pot every year, $1 million a day, has about $1 billion, 3 times as much, that leaves the state every year as illegal pot, where it's shipped to other states, probably Idaho included, and sold illegally. And the illegal trade generates other kinds of crimes. Usually illegal trade does generate other crimes, and with pot it's no different. It's very much a high dollar kind of drug operation, and it creates other criminal problems.
Our great friend Lars Larson joining us. So, Lars, I guess we could start with Omarosa, but first, before that, I'd love to get your thoughts on the White House. It seems to be under siege week after week, charge after charge, and then we have Omarosa on the Today Show yesterday on Meet the Press, and I don't know where to go from there.
Well, just assume that because Donald Trump has been under attack, and when you say under siege, not from the American public. The American public is, in fact, warming up to him because his approval ratings are better now, and they are as good as or better than Obama's ratings at the same time. So you have to measure this in context and say, no matter who the president is, there's going to be a percentage of Americans who don't like him. There was a percentage of Americans that didn't like Obama. But the visceral hatred for Donald Trump seems to eclipse anything I've ever seen with any other president. I mean, there were people who didn't like Jerry Ford. I didn't particularly care for Jimmy Carter. So that takes us back almost, 40 plus years. But you didn't see the kind of visceral hatred. Then you have this Omarosa character who had done some work with Donald Trump when he was a celebrity apprentice. And she appears to be a self-aggrandizing, ego-seeking person who has done things that I think most of us would think were both illegal and immoral, like recording your exit interview with the White House chief of staff and apparently secretly doing it. I doubt that she told anyone that she was recording it, nor did she say, I'm going to make this recording in the Situation Room of the White House, and then I'm going to take the recording public. She contradicts herself in her own book. The most salacious charge, of course, is that Donald Trump has used the so-called N-word to describe black Americans. But in her book, in her previous statement, she's actually said that in 14 years of knowing Donald Trump, she's never heard him say anything that was out of line. Now, in order to sell a book and make money, she says that she's actually heard a tape recording of him saying the so-called N-word. And then you find out she didn't actually hear the recording. She talked to somebody who had talked to somebody who had heard the recording. Well, with that level of proof, I think all of us have good reason to believe that she's not telling the truth. She's doing something to grab her 30 minutes or 45 minutes of fame and to make some money. And I do begrudge her that, because I don't like it when people take advantage of the president that I think is doing a good job by going out and launching salacious and untrue rumors about the man, and then turning around and saying that you're doing this to make money. It's outrageous.
Well, and then we have, in the long history of Meet the Press, where we have these newsmakers on, we have Omarosa, Lars, who was on Big Brother, Celebrity Edition, like 6 months ago, right when she got the boot from the White House. It's just fascinating. And you could hear, you could almost see Chuck Todd cringing at having to interview her, and yet the press will stop at nothing to derail the president.
Well, guess what? Guess who else is looking to make money and make ratings? And the idea is we're going to interview this woman who's not a senator, not a rep, not a foreign policy expert, none of those things. We're going to put her on because we know it's likely to generate more eyeballs on Sunday morning than any other kind of program. And consider what she was, Kevin. In the state of Idaho, you know that there are public information officers for various different state agencies. And even within the governor's office, there are probably public information officers, and then there are people who represent particular departments. In the White House, she worked as the communications director for the Office of Public Liaison. Now, I would, not having done a lot of investigation of that, but just based on the title, the Office of Public Liaison means there are probably thousands of people who call the White House every week to say, I've got a good idea or I have a problem and I want to address it. That office deals with liaising with the public. She was the communications director for an office that deals publicly, deals with the general public when they call the White House. So she was in a junior communications spot. I don't even know why she was hired. If anything, it might draw into question, why did the president agree to give her a job? And further, if she thinks that Donald Trump is such a dirty dog, why would she ever agree to take the job? I mean, I will interview almost anyone on the air, Kevin, and I have. I've interviewed Fred Phelps of the Westboro Baptist Church. I've interviewed members of the Klan. I've interviewed serial killers. I've interviewed some really despicable people. But if somebody came to me and said, Lars, we're going to offer you a fantastic job at double your current paycheck. We want you to go to work for Chuck Schumer. I would happily say, no, don't need the money. I'm not going to go to work for Chuck Schumer. I don't agree with his values. I don't agree with his behavior or his beliefs. Why would this woman, who clearly thinks or says in her book to make money, says in her book that Donald Trump is this despicable character, why would she agree to go to work for him unless you assume one of two things? Either she didn't think he was a dirty dog when she went to work for him and drew that conclusion. Having known him for 14 years, she drew the conclusion in a matter of less than 12 months, or she knew that she already had a low opinion of Donald Trump, but she thought, I will take the job because I see a way to make some money, and I will have a very prominent and public firing from the White House. I'll make a big deal about it. I'll get some fame and notoriety out of it, and I'll make some money. Now, would you respect somebody who went to work for an organization planning to do damage to the organization because they could make some money by doing it? I think that's a despicable thing to do.
Oh, I would agree with you. It's just fascinating that everybody's giving her book this oxygen, if you will. Lars Larson joining us, Lars Larson Show, LarsLarson.com. Of course, you can catch him weeknights 6 to 9 here at KIDO Talk Radio. So, Lars, what about you? How do you take time off? I know you've had some rest.
Well, here's what we did, and we have dreamed of doing this for a while. I got a few emails from people who, God bless them, love the show, and they say, why are you on vacation, or why am I hearing interviews? Well, I do a lot of pre-taped interviews with a lot of really great guests, and then I prep those for vacation. I can't cover the entire time I'm off because I have 6 hours a day times 2 weeks. This is the second 2-week vacation that my wife and I have taken in the 25 years we've been together. And the previous 2-week vacation was a couple of years ago. So we've taken 2-week vacations in all that time. We have dreamed for a long time of driving cross-country across America. And so what we did was we took a flight at night. We took the red eye. It's less expensive to fly to Boston a little over 2 weeks ago. We got a rental car that was a drop car where you pick it up in one location and drop it somewhere else. It was an SUV, And we drove from Boston north through Maine. We went to Kennebunkport. We went to Portland. We went to Bangor. We went to Bar Harbor. It is a beautiful state. We went through national parks. We went to museums. We then drove back down through part of Maine and then across the state of Maine on the back roads to New Hampshire. We went through New Hampshire and then Vermont, from Vermont to upstate New York, which is also drop-dead beautiful. We dropped down through New York, didn't really want to go to New York City. We've been there before, and it doesn't hold that much interest for us. Came down through New York State on the western side of New York State, west of New York City, through Pennsylvania. Went from Pennsylvania into Maryland, and from Maryland into West Virginia. And I know, Kevin, that people in Idaho are proud of all the trees we have here in the Northwest. The northeastern United States, which, as you know, has had European people in it for the last 400 years, is absolutely beautiful. It's we went through West Virginia. We went into Kentucky. We spent some time in Kentucky on the Bourbon Trail. I wanted to go to a few different distilleries that I hadn't been to. And then we went through Kentucky and then Kansas, which is also a very beautiful state, a bit of Colorado, and then we drove across the state of Wyoming and then over the Grand Tetons. And we went to Grand Teton National Park, absolutely gorgeous, and then into Idaho, south from Idaho Falls, and then across the state of Idaho into Washington State, and then back toward our home in Vancouver, Washington. So we put in 5,000 road miles. If you go on the most efficient route from where we started to where we ended, it's about 3,000 miles. We did 5,000 miles, and we had great food. We met great people, and a lot of states that are flyover states, which I think people on the coasts kind of turn up their noses at. Like Idaho, like Kansas, like Wyoming, like Nebraska, like Kentucky, are absolutely filled with wonderful Americans. And it was just such a joy to take this cross-country trip and see our country.
Boy, that's amazing. I was going to say, how does Lars Larson get away from it all? But that answers the question right there.
And I came back in time to put a new coat of paint on my granddaughter's playhouse. I'll send you a picture of it. I'll email you a picture of it, which is in the backyard of our yard, and she's almost 2.5 now, and she loves it. And to get a chance to spend some time with family and friends and all, and just relax.
Well, Lars, we're glad you're back, and always appreciate having you on, and look forward to hearing you tonight, sir.
It is a pleasure to be on, and it was a pleasure. Actually, I heard part of your Monday show, and you were off on Monday, right?
I was in Lincoln City all week. Yep.
Yeah. See, and so I heard the best of the Kevin Miller show for part of the day, and it was a pleasure listening to you. It felt a little weird to be listening to talk radio instead of doing talk radio, but Kevin, you do a fantastic job for the people in your community and your state.
Well, thank you, Lars, and we so appreciate you. Have a great day, and great to have you back, sir.
And you as well. Take care and stay cool.
Thank you, Lars.
All right, bye-bye.
Our great friend Lars Larson. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk to Cindy, Liberty, Linda, and Andrew, Omarosa, and Pot. I mean, that's going to be stimulating. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
You've heard on that tape is in this book and many more.
The book is called Unhinged. Who does that refer to?
Oh, Donald J. Trump, absolutely.
Do you think he's mentally competent to do this job?
No, I don't think he's fit. And as we heard on the recording that you just played, he doesn't even know what's happening in his White House. General Kelly, John Kelly, is running this White House, and Donald Trump has no clue what's going on. He's being puppeted, and that's very dangerous for this nation.
Omarosa, if you really got to go, I got to stack more questions. Are you
I'm not afraid, but
You're right here live on the Today Show.
There we have it. Omarosa, the president tweeting already. She's a lowlife. She's this, she's that. At one time, one of the most trusted advisors to the White House, now revealing all. We'll get to that in a minute. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Andrew in Boise, thank you for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, a little bit of a wait there. Hey, I was calling about the medical marijuana, and I know you've been taking a ranking over this these past few calls. I don't use it. I don't use any marijuana at all. I thought it was pretty dumb. I've been in the National Guard for 9 years, and you can't use drugs when you're in the Guard. Got a really good job working as a federal contractor. And can't use drugs for that. So, I've got a nice house, nice car, a lot of nice things just because I stayed away,
I'm glad you're doing well. That's great. Drug-free life pays off.
I'm doing great. But my wife, she's really sick, and she got a really bad form of lupus. So she takes a bunch of hydrocodone and morphine and all that, and so she's, trying to deal with the pain, and makes her really, really sleepy and hard to wake her up, and frustrates me at times. But, you can't fix someone if they're broke. It's just the way it is. And then we discovered the CBD oil, and we tried that out, and she's right as a normal person. And that's just one of the reasons I'm for it, is because I could see with my own eyes, paying $5 for a bottle of hydrocodone that could kill you if you took it all. Or I go and pay $100 for a little tiny bottle of CBD oil, and turns into a whole new person. And I think it kind of takes, once you see one of your loved ones in pain and seeing the difference that this stuff actually does, it could really open your eyes to, maybe want to legalize it. So that's just my standpoint. And from seeing it myself, I still don't use marijuana. I won't touch it. I have no interest in it. But I see what it does for my wife. And because of that, I 100% support it. And I hope we legalize it in Idaho, because I'm tired of driving to Oregon.
Well, you can get CBD oil here. I know there are some locations, and people aren't prosecuted for getting it. I don't know if it's the certain kind of CBD oil that your wife uses, and I'm sorry for her illness. Lupus is an underreported and certainly a debilitating disease, and I feel your pain on that, sir. But I know that there are parts in Idaho where you can get it. Of course, the people that get it in Idaho, they don't tell me where you can get it. And it was a big, major point during the campaign on whether or not the CBD oil that Idaho is going to get which will be regulated by the feds, is as beneficial as the stuff that you get, let's say, in Oregon or other parts of the country.
Yeah, and for what we pay for, we pay $100 for this tiny little bottle. She puts a few droplets under her tongue.
Right.
And it's such a high dosage that we have to go drive a little ways to get it. But paying $100 for that, and you pay $5 for hydrocodone, it blows my mind. It just blows my mind that you can get these pills that people are constantly overdosing on and killing themselves. And she's gotten, problems where, you took a little too many pills, like, stop, okay, let's see where we're at here. But that oil, you can't overdo it on it. And it doesn't put you to sleep. It doesn't make you do crazy things. And so, I don't know. Again, I still won't use it. I have too much to risk for my job and stuff. But for medical reasons, I love to see her acting like a normal person and being able to live life without, staying in bed 16, 20 hours a day.
Without the pain.
So,
right, yep. Andrew,
anyway, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for your honesty, sir. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning.
Zeri Gabbard.
And to Liberty Linda, who's been very patient. Thank you. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning. Yay, you're back.
Yes, I am.
I'm so happy when you take a week off and you get away and, forget about everything you're supposed to. But, our days are just not quite right. There's something wrong, and I think I figured it out. You complete our day. How about that?
Well, thank you very much. I'm humbled.
Well, I mean it. You're wonderful. You are part of our lives, that's for sure. And I have 2 words for marijuana. Icky poo.
Icky poo.
Icky poo, yes. I think that describes it quite well.
I take it you're not in favor of legalization. What do you make of Omarosa?
Well, I think she's a good, that she's not there anymore. And I think that our president should hire someone else to take care of the White House. He's busy doing other things. You know, he needs others to do that. So I think that was a kind of a ridiculous statement. Excuse me. And I went and saw the D'Souza movie. I don't know if you've seen it yet. But anyway, he has such a subtle way of putting everything into perspective. He wasn't born in this country. He comes here and his eyes are open. He can see what's going on in our country. And if you haven't been to the movie, it's a marvelous movie. And he shows us exactly how the Dems have switched everything over to the Republicans and blamed them for everything. And, you know, it's just a wonderful movie. And it's a good way for those who don't understand what's going on in our nation to get a new perspective of it.
Well, with that endorsement, I'm sure a lot of people will go see it.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend it. And anyway, so we'll just let you go on completing our day, Kevin. We love you, and we miss you when you're gone, but I hope you had a good time there.
You know, I missed you guys, so I'm glad to be back and thankful to join you every morning, Liberty Linda.
And we're glad that, well, you're right about Tom Selleck. I mean,
right.
Magnum P.I., he was great in it. And they could put him back in it. He's still acting. So, anyway. So, we'll miss him in it. There's a new series coming out.
You're right. Liberty Linda, God bless you. Have a great day.
You as well, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, more coming up next. More of your calls with all of us here. You're listening on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Rolling right along from your house to the White House. John Decker joins us, Fox News Radio, at the White House. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you, Kevin?
Not bad. Boy, I know you've heard this from everyone you talk to. Never a dull moment at this White House. Welcome, Omarosa.
Yeah, Omarosa keeping up reality television here at the White House with the release of what she says are recordings of her and White House Chief of Staff John Kelly in the White House Situation Room. She secretly recorded him, she says, and she played those recordings on NBC's Meet the Press yesterday. She also, this morning on NBC's Today Show, released a recording. She says it was the day after she was fired of a conversation she had by phone with President Trump, in which he expressed surprise that she was fired from her work at the White House. And the White House is firing back at Omarosa after both of these incidents. The president tweeting quite a bit about her this morning, 3 separate tweets about her, including one in which he wrote, "People in the White House hated her. She was vicious but not smart." And the White House is said to be exploring legal options against Omarosa Manigault-Newman regarding this secretly recorded audio in the Situation Room.
Yeah, it's fascinating, John. As someone who has covered and worked at the highest levels, how unusual is it that she could do this to the Chief of Staff in the Situation Room?
Well, it's very unusual. You know, there are protocols, there are regulations as it relates to what you can and cannot bring into the White House Situation Room, and it's prohibited to bring in electronic devices such as a phone or an iPhone, which apparently is what Omarosa used to record that conversation. Now, is it against the law? I don't think so. It's not illegal to record someone without their knowledge in the District of Columbia, and even though she may have violated some regulations, it's not punishable by jail time or a fine, even if that. Usually the punishment is termination, but of course she's no longer working at the White House.
Right, and then, again, as someone who has been at these levels, it's amazing when you kind of sit back and think, 6 months removed from Celebrity Big Brother, she's on Meet the Press in the A Block.
Yeah, right. Well, I was thinking about it. It's likely the first and last time she will ever appear on a Sunday morning show. not because of anything that she said or did, but because she doesn't really have any more ammunition, after she played that recording with the president. I think this is essentially a 24 to 48 hour story, unless, of course, she has many, many, many more recordings involving senior White House officials, including the president. If she doesn't have that, then she's run out of ammunition, and the interest in her goes away.
Speaking of interest, anything we should be looking out for this week except the president tweeting about Omarosa?
Yeah, well, that's what the president was tweeting about today, but he's hitting the road today. He's leaving from New Jersey, heading to New York State. He's going to sign the Defense Authorization Bill, which is named after Senator John McCain. It funds the Defense Department for the next fiscal year, approved in a bipartisan fashion, so the president will sign that and also make some remarks a little bit later this afternoon. And the president also, while he's up in New York State, will headline a fundraiser for a member of Congress who's having a difficult time in her reelection run. So the president hoping to raise money for her to help her out in her effort to retain her seat and to help Republicans retain their majority in the U.S. House of Representatives.
John, we always appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Kevin, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, our great friend John Decker. All right, your phone calls with me at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Nampa and Dave with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Well, yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Listen, 3 quick points. First of all, as to him being unhinged, okay, when Lincoln was told you can't put U.S. Grant in, he's a drunk, he said, figure out what he's drinking and send all of his other officers a case.
Right.
Okay. 120 years later, Reagan would come out of a meeting and Henry Kissinger would be ripping what little hair he has left out of his head. And he said, the man's an incompetent. He doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what it does. He doesn't know what it's for. Here's the weirdest part. He always gives the right answer. Have you ever heard of nothing succeeds like success? The best women's unemployment, the best black unemployment, the best youth black unemployment, the best Hispanic unemployment. I don't care if you have a mandrill ape in the White House. Okay? He does things like that, I will send him a Madonna. And now it's for Omarosa. She was a liar a decade ago, and she's a liar now. Remember when she said that woman that she said had no class, her mom had cancer, and Donald Trump actually asked her, do you want to bail out? But she didn't. She said 30 or 40 hours after she left, and she left badly. You know, when she couldn't fob her mistakes off on somebody else because the crowd was getting thinner. She was the only person to ever crash the meeting. You know how they have a meeting? Okay, which one of these 3 is going to go? She crashed the meeting. Everything I want. She had that whiny tone. And if you got on her, like, remember that? She said that she was a whiner, and she said that girl called her the N-word. Really? There's cameras on them 15 hours a day, and you're a whiner? And it took you 30 or 40 hours before you dropped that? She'd be screaming it from the rooftop the second it happened. Now, why wasn't she? Because she realized she was an idiot, so she decided to get some pity points. Okay, she was a liar then. And by the way, I make a prediction now. That tape she says that he's using the N-word will miraculously never surface. Want to bet?
All right, David. Well, if it does appear, I hope you call in.
I'll say I was wrong.
All right, brother. Thank you, David.
I think I will.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. David's usually one of our 6 o'clock callers. Glad to see he's listening during the 8 a.m. hour as well. Remember, if you miss any hours of the Kevin Miller Show, you can always go to KIDOTalkRadio.com for our podcast section. We continue on, and we go to Cindy in Caldwell. She's been very patient. Thank you for your patience. Good morning, Cindy.
Well, okay, Kevin, it's always a blessing to, work on my patience with the Lord, and it's just a blessing to have you back. You know what, Kevin? Just one comment to start with. You know, Kevin, I missed you last week, but I was glad to hear a lot of the reruns because I missed points here and there, so that was great. But what I thought about you most, since I have also seen Dinesh D'Souza's Death of a Nation, which, believe it or not, held over at Nampa 14, and I thought of you and Nehemiah, and I just, in leaving the state, I thought of you at the end of the movie, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but there's a scene where Dinesh challenges people, and that's the people of Idaho, the people that listen to this show, the people that care about God, family, and country, that whatever you do, and you're part of this, Kevin, is you may stand. Please stand, but you may have to stand alone. And he uses an example of a young girl in Germany. And as a journalist and someone like you who used the power of what I believe Who Runs To You, the word to speak back. And yes, you draw a line in the sand. We're talking about two different things, and just a perfect example to start this morning. CBT oil is one thing. Marijuana is another. And my heart sickens me to go back to the state of Washington next week with my granddaughter, Isabella Marie, is learning to drive. Where they live, there's like 4 stores, and one of them is a marijuana dope store. And I'm just going to give you facts. Thank God for the mayor of Linden, Washington, and I'm hoping Caldwell's mayor will stand strong. 6 moratoriums before an ordinance that he would not allow that drug in. And here you go. That's why the National Guard don't want you to use it. Yes, it does if you drive. It can get you relaxed but disoriented. It alters your time and space. It can give to us drowsiness, sedation, lack of concentration, impaired time and distance. Reaction times are off. Do you want the military using it? No. And yeah, 1 or 2 hours after use, it does impair your driving. It sticks up in your brain for at least 24 hours, and certainly it enhances, and that means some drugs concomitantly working together. It pushes on marijuana. And yes, for young adults, just like your Lars Larson said, I will fight tooth and nail. I was in so many meetings with every town in Washington. It's sickens me that for people alone on the road, I'm not talking about CBT oil. I was a hospice nurse. I have my own issues and I never used that. But, the reason too, I'll tell you, interestingly enough, because I used to do my own studies in Washington and go up to their stores, the medical marijuana people don't want to be tagged. They don't want it in their medical records. So why would you buy medical marijuana for whatever you're doing? You go right next door into the, quote, recreational, and you can go put that thing in everything from a candy bar to your right on top of your pizza. That said, you have to stand alone, Kevin, and stand strong in this state against that. And the other thing, Kevin Miller, she is that Amarosa, whatever have. I only kept thinking, hell has no fury like a woman scorned. And that's where her ideation comes from. I'm sorry, I know the moral book of law, which is my Bible, and everything that comes out of her mouth is hidden in her heart, which is deceitfully wicked. It says a couple things in the Bible. Respect your president. Please pray for them. It has nothing to do with doing everything that she's doing, which doesn't surprise me with the progressive left as spoken to in Dinesh's movie. I mean, I almost want to get sick when she's calling who racist. Margaret Sanger, the poster woman for Planned Parenthood, the biggest racist eugenicist, survival of the fittest person, just like Hitler. Everything is spoken to, like Liberty Linda said, on fascism, race, and who really are the racists. So you stand strong, Kevin Miller. I have been blessed by coming to Idaho to know that there are men like you and Ray out there and people that are drawing a line in the sand
now, Cindy,
and not
Cindy,
equivocating.
Cindy.
Yes.
Before you go.
Yeah.
Now, is this your last week in Idaho?
Yes, sir. I get, thank God, also a shout out to all the people that give plasma. I'll get my plasma next week from Monday
when
and
should
leave
we,
the next day.
So let's see, Wednesday or Thursday, when should we go to lunch?
Well, we should always support the Indian Creek Saloon. You know me. They stayed. So anybody want to come by there? I will buy you a nice glass of tomato juice.
I'm against the clock, but let's talk again tomorrow and come up with either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday for your farewell lunch.
That's
fine. Well, you just stand strong, Kevin Miller, and you are at the end of the movie. You got to go see that.
Okay.
You are the people we're talking about. Stand strong, Kevin Miller.
God bless, Cindy. We'll go to lunch this week, all right?
Okay, Kevin Miller. Bye-bye. Love you dearly.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How do we follow that? Tea Party Bob next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. To the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Nice to have you back, but you need to find another place to vacation where they don't have cannabis legalized, so you won't come back with a marijuana chip on your shoulder.
Maybe Montana.
I don't know.
Maybe
So
Utah.
Max is
Wait a
wrong
minute.
about
No,
marijuana.
I think the perfect place for me would be Salt Lake. We agree on a lot of things down there.
In the Salt Lake or around the Salt Lake?
People in Salt Lake listen to this show all the time. I think we resonate there, so maybe that's where I'll go.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to move then. I don't know what I'd do without you.
I'm not going anywhere as long as you'll have me. So please go ahead.
So anyway, Max is wrong about marijuana having no medicinal value. In fact, in Israel, they've been standardizing the plant several years, and it's proven its effectiveness. The studies that they're doing have been financed by our own National Institute of Health to the tune of millions of dollars. If marijuana does not have any medical value, why does the National Institute of Health have a patent on it? You said this morning they should arrest everyone that uses the plant. Just where are you going to put those people, those new criminals? Where's the jail space you're going to put them in? Our president is trying to reform our prison system, and within that reform, he is talking about reforming the marijuana laws to allow for decriminalization and the use of CBD oil. On the subject of medical expansion, Medicaid expansion, I'd like to reiterate that you're not going to solve our problems by throwing more money at them. It already has been tried in many states, and in every one has failed to significantly change anything. What it has done is expanded the debt to the point where many of the states are now on the verge of bankruptcy. Talk to some of the doctors in Idaho, and you'll find out that they don't want to provide services to the Medicaid patients because they don't make enough money to provide the services. And in fact, if you check, you'll find out that 400 MDs have retired for two reasons: the cost of malpractice insurance and the continual cuts in payments to the patients they service on Medicaid. The other problem is that even those who do have Medicaid, 36% of the patients, average age 46, 72% who are women, don't show up for their appointments, even when offered a free ride. Guess what? We pay for those missed appointments. This is a total waste of public funds. We need to find a better way to deliver the medical services to the Medicaid patients and eliminate the bureaucracy involved along with the fraud. The other problem is Medicaid patients don't have any skin in the game, which is why they don't care about missing appointments. This is a broken system, and expanding something that's already broken is just plain stupid. Medicaid makes up over 27% of our state budget. Today, $2.8 billion goes to Medicaid, $2.1 billion to our schools. Idaho spends close to $600 million of our own taxpayer dollars on Medicaid. What do you think would happen if we expand it and the government finally says we're going to cut back on the payments to 70 or 50%? We will bankrupt this state, which is happening all across the country. We don't need to expand Medicaid. We need to change the way we deliver medical care to the people here. I guess that's all I have to say. I sure did miss you.
Well, I missed you too, old friend.
I hope you had a wonderful time and you're all relaxed and ready to go.
No, I kept playing your voices in my head the entire time, actually.
Oh,
it was the weirdest thing.
I don't think you did that at all.
it was like having my own show in my head. But Tea Party Bob, God bless. Thank you.
Take care, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Quickly to traffic, then pro-life. All right, pro-life, bring us home.
Yeah, when you legalize something, then what it does is it destroys the rights of the people. Suppose you make raw milk illegal, well then you can't get certain things. Marijuana should not be legalized because then the government will tax
Thanks, pro-life.